for her trip. And it intrigues me, to tell you the truth.
Well, I am sure that Sarah will explain everything once she reappears. There's something I still don't get. In your opinion, why would your mother remain in hiding over several weeks?
Her not coming back to the manor after so long makes me wonder if she is wary of someone.
Well, certainly. But whom? The only ones who were present during her stay were Sir Gregory, Duchess Hillsborough, Mr. von Wollner, and myself.
And what about Mr. von Wollner? Do you know him well?
To be honest, not really. He's closer to Gregory. I'm not the one who invited him.
What I know of him is what they say in high society salons. He's a man who manages to form alliances with the right people when it's necessary. As a minister of the church, he actively repressed the religions of the book and the spirit of the Enlightenment. And, if I'm not mistaken, he has a passion for alchemy.
But then, I must admit, he is rather evasive and not very talkative, at least toward me.
I'd like to have a word with him if I get the chance. He might be able to tell me more about my mother's last days with you.
The only thing I can tell you is that Sarah had indeed changed. At the beginning of her stay here, we enjoyed spending time together, solving the world's problems.
You seem to know my mother very well, my lord. What did you talk about together?
Oh, as soon as we had a little free time, we liked to share points of view about practically any subject. We would find ourselves embarked on interminable discussions that could go from Monsieur Blanchard's flight in a hot air balloon to the Treaty of Jassy, or the adoption of the metric system in France last year, or even Mr. Eli Whitney's invention in the United States.
Oh, that's great. I don't have politics, so I can't do that. Let's do Whitney's Cotton Gin. Yeah.
Ah, yes. His famous cotton gin. It was supposed to revolutionize cotton production in the United States.
It will revolutionize the world, Louis. The potential of this invention is much greater. Tomorrow, all industries will be switching to simple but large-scale production. Of that, I'm sure.
I'm surprised she didn't get you started on the Crusades. It was her favorite subject.
Are you joking? Sarah and I spent entire days together reliving them. It so happens that the Crusades are also my subject of predilection, especially the Third. My ancestor distinguished himself brilliantly during the siege of Saint-Jean d'Acre.
The famous papal bull of Pope Gregory VIII.
Mother lulled my childhood with tales of the Crusades. How Richard the Lionheart and Philip Augustus had to battle it out to achieve their ends. And how Guy de Lusignan, having broken his word, launched the siege of Saint-Jean d'Acre.
Oh,
Guy de
Sarah's
Lusignan.
lessons have inspired new enthusiasts. Good on you, because not everyone can claim they know as much at your age.
It's the Guy de Lusignan is the is the guy in Kingdom of Heaven, the bad guy, the one that wants to start a war absolutely and becomes the king of Jerusalem.
Your mother is a very well-read woman. You're quite lucky to have her as a model, Louis.
Yes, I know, but I'm still very worried.
I must admit, there are worse things to worry about now, Louis.
What do you mean?
Since she disappeared, your mother has been seen once. Her behavior
What?
on the evening of your arrival greatly surprised Gregory and myself. She resurfaced to attack Emma, Emily Hillsborough's twin sister. And she shot her with a pistol. Then, before Gregory could intervene, she ran off and disappeared again.
I beg your pardon? Hang on.
That means my vision on the wharf, it was actually happening inside the manor. Mother shot Emily's sister? The very person she came looking for? Why would she do that?
Excuse me, but between that and the childhood of Lady Adams, it's all a bit much for me to cope with. I need to piece it all together again to see things more clearly. You said that you spent a lot of time talking together at the beginning. What happened for that to change?
I'm afraid I haven't much to tell you. The more the days went by, the more she withdrew into herself. She never gave me an explanation, until the day came when she purely and simply disappeared.
Where did she go when she wanted to be alone?
She would shut herself away in a room we use as a box room upstairs.
Would you allow me to go there?
Naturally, Louis, of course. I'll send you a servant to open it.
Thank you.
That's all I can tell you about the disappearance of your mother, Louis. I would like to have been more helpful.
I shall stay on her trail and follow up any leads.
Thank you. We will meet later on to welcome our last guest. In the meantime, I shall get someone to open the box room upstairs for you.
Thank you.
So the vision we had, I thought it was in the future, but it already happened.
Just opposite Mortimer's study.
Okay. So we'll just do a quick pass around here, guys, because last time there were a lot of stuff we could loot. I thought it was blood, but it's the design on the plate. Monsieur de Peru. A bunch of briefcases. There don't seem to be anything to loot here, contrary to last time. Maybe I should try and open doors. I can't. We passed a door on our way, right? Yeah, we probably did. Who was that again? Monsieur...
Duke Manuel Godoy.
Oh, that's the guy that's not here yet. That's the only person that was invited that has not yet arrived. The only guest. That's my room, which I can't enter. Okay. Cardinal de Piaghi can't enter either. Yeah, there don't seem to be anything to loot here. Which room is that? George Washington. That's... I don't know what that room is. Oh, maybe it was the room of the girl that was killed. It's the name of Johan de Volner. What's this room? Oh, that's the room. Okay.
There are burnt papers in the chimney. There's a legible fragment left. Hey, I recognize my mother's handwriting. She says we must find a safer way to communicate. Someone is onto us. Trust in my faith in the man with the sword. So Mother had an accomplice here. Who could it be?
The man with the
What
sword.
would she be suspicious of? I must find the next part. Faith, sword. I recognize her love of riddles there.
Trust my faith in the guy with the sword.
Dante's Paradise. Raise your head and be reassured, for what comes up here from the mortal world must ripen in our rays.
Okay.
What is this disc?
Observe the disc.
Oh, that reminds me of the ones my mother collects. It's magnetic.
Take it. It's a magnetic disc. Don't know what to do with that info. Some Carmelite water, great.
St. Paul on the road to Damascus by Caravaggio.
The myth of St. Paul is well known. Occultism.
A fierce opponent of the first Christians, St. Paul is suddenly struck by the call of Jesus Christ and converts. It's the best known conversion in Christian history, which teaches us that even enemies of Christ can be saved, and even become his greatest apostles after finding faith. From what I can recall, the account of his conversion could be found in the epistles to the Galatians, the Philippians, the Corinthians, and the Acts of the Apostles.
Okay. Still into painting?
Caravaggio attained a magnificent command of black and the play of colors too. Paul facing an ordeal, the curtains of his illusions being raised, and receives the light from his Savior.
Okay, this painting will have something to do, I'm sure, with, like, the riddle we're facing right now. What were these again? Okay, that's to restore. These. So for those of you who weren't there before, when we played episode 1, essentially every time you see me having choices in dialogues, there are choices that are free, which means they don't cost effort or anything like that. Some choices are not free, but then if I have the right skill with the right level attached to it, I'm fine. So for example, if one of the choices requires a science 3 and I have only science 1, I can still make that choice even though I don't have the level, but it will cost me effort points to compensate for the fact that I have only level 1, which these are the points that are here behind where I'm standing right now. I have total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, including the one I've spent. So I only have 9 remaining, which means that when you're doing these things, like the choices and stuff in dialogue, I can take consumables, which are these 4 things, and they each do something. So this one will give me back effort points, which means I'll be able to make more choices or more difficult choices. This one allows me to use the next skill for free, even though I might not have the points for it. It's a free choice right off the bat. Sometimes characters will have immunities or vulnerabilities to certain topics. So if I'm to ask a question and I want to use manipulation, but the guy's immune to it, well, it's just I've wasted my time, because that it's not going to do anything. The person's not going to answer me. So, or if it's vulnerable to it, then maybe it will, like, since I know he's vulnerable to that, like, he's going to open up more, or the skill, which was supposed to be a 3 difficulty, might, like, lower down to, like, a 2 or a 1, just because I know. This thing here will tell me, not in the entire thing, but, like, for a limited amount of time, they will tell me, like, what the vulnerability of that person is, depending on the choices that I have. And this one is interesting. Now, the more of these things I take, the more intoxicated I become, and I start getting malices. Like, I start getting sick, tired, a bunch of different things, which will make me cost even more points when I want to talk to people, or, you know, inspect, or even maybe unlock a chest or whatever. So once in a while I have to take one of these, the Golden Elixir, which will remove any negative stuff I have. So any malices I have will just go away. Pretty nice. Now, as for these are clues that I found throughout our gameplay, and I can reread any of these. These are books that I found either by talking to people and they've given those to me, or by exploring, finding them in bookcases, all that stuff. And the books actually give bonuses. As you can see, it says +1 skill point in logic. Now, every time I finish one of the sub-chapters. So there's episodes and there's like chapters. So in episode 1, there's chapter 1 to 4, and then in episode 2, there's 5, 6, 7. Every time you finish a chapter, they will allow you to select more books that you read, if you will, in between the chapters. So so far, like I've read these books, like they're equipped, if you will, so that I get these bonuses. So I have these, right? These here are incompletes. They are more powerful because instead of giving just 1 point, they give like 3. But you need to find out all the pieces for them to be completed. Then they turn into like a regular book that gives all these bonuses, and then you can equip it. But you need to find all the pieces for it first. So as you can see, it's pretty interesting because it's not only like a walking simulator where you just walk around and just click on stuff. Like, it actually requires you to play, which is something I find is missing a lot in adventure games. More often than not nowadays, it's just walk around, click on items. There's a cool story, but there's not a lot of gameplay there. You just basically just go through the motions, and the game ends. This one actually makes you think. You need to make decisions and stuff. And some of the, like, they found me in that room, right? I was drugged. They found me in that room next to the body of the person that was killed. Now, what's interesting is before I went into that room, I had an option to not go into that room and to go into another room entirely, in which case I would have had an entire different conversation, and at the end, I would have not been accused of murder because I wasn't even there. So it would have been an entire different intro sequence to this episode, just because I would not have been even considered to be a suspect. Whereas this time they thought I was a suspect. Like, it massively changes the gameplay every time you make a choice. So this is super cool too, because one of the streamers I was watching played 2 games back to back of episode 1. And he took vastly different choices. And at the end, the thing that he said was that it felt like he played 2 different games. Like, it blew his mind, like how different the outcomes are. So that's really cool. Another thing that's really neat is the talents. The talents are like, think of them like achievements almost. Like, you just do stuff in the game and they just unlock and you get these. So for example, like every time I use subterfuge, this increases. Once I reach 10, then I unlock quick, which will give me 1 skill point in subterfuge. So just by playing the game, essentially, they fill up, and eventually you unlock these. And then you have traits. Traits depend on what kind of choices you made in dialogues and stuff. These are all the traits that I have right now because I've chosen different paths in the game, and they've given me these. As you guys have seen in the beginning, because I was condemned, I got this one. But then because I was declared not guilty, I was given that one. So it really depends on what you choose. You end up getting one of these. Like, for example, if I wasn't, like, if I had convinced them in the first place that I was not even guilty, I would have never gotten condemned. Condemn is actually a bad one because it means that every time I want to use vigilance, they're going to cost more points to use. So yeah, so this is like a malice. It's not a good thing, and I'm stuck with it for the entirety of the game. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. Like, I'm fucked essentially. So episode 3, 4, 5, I will always have that malice added to me. And these, now, something I forgot to mention, here, this thing here, which says Ember Fragments. Once in a while, you will find an Ember Fragment. Once you reach 4, it will give you an extra effort point. So, like, it will, instead of having 10, I'll have 11, for example. So, as the more points I find, the better it is. And the other thing is these, at the end of every episode, chapter, the game will evaluate how well you did, like how many secrets you found, depending on what choices you made during the game. You will get more bonuses and stuff, and then you get XP. Once you level up, you get a bunch of points, and these points you can then spend around here. These are locked because I don't have any points in them. I need 3 points for it to unlock. Then it will become level 1, which means that from that point on, I'll be able to use diversion. Right now I can't. So every time there's a conversation and there's diversion as a choice, I can choose it because it's going to be blacked out. As soon as I get 3 points in there, it's going to turn to level 1, then I'll be able to start using it. But depending on the difficulty of the choice in conversation, it might cost me effort point, might not, so on and so forth. So, yeah. So all the ones that are lit up, that means that I have active. The blue ones means that they are level 2, and I'm working on level 3. So to get to level 1, it's only 3. To get to level 2, it takes 5. But to get to level 3, it takes 10. 11. It takes 11. So, yeah. It takes a while. Hey, Redacted, what's up? How you doing? So, yeah. So if you guys like adventure games where like you actually have to think and it's not just like a walking simulator, I highly suggest this game. Like it's okay, it's buggy, there's a bunch of like graphical glitches and stuff you'll find weird. Like at some point, like in the beginning conversation, like one of the guy didn't have mouth sync for like one line, and then another guy, like his hand was like sort of clipping a little bit through his coat. But if you can look past that and just appreciate the game and the story, I guarantee you it's worth it. But it's a little rougher on the edges, is all I'm gonna say. Yeah. So that's my take on it so far, and that's after playing one episode and then a few minutes of this one.
Pound.
We got another collector point. Collector coin. See these coins here? I don't know what they do. We found some. We're up to 7, but as far as I can recall, I don't think they're used for anything. Maybe like one. Maybe here there's like a thing I can unlock, or maybe it's gonna be a trait if I find all of them. I don't know, but I think they give more XP maybe at the end. Like you found you found all the secrets, you get that or this. I don't know. Redacted, it's been a while. How you doing? I missed you. Oh, you're chicken.
The door appears to be locked on the other side. I think I heard something fall to the ground. A metallic sound, like a key falling to the floor.
So see, in this one, for example, I don't have any points in logic. So it's a skill I don't have. It's a difficulty 1. So if I had it at level 1, this skill would be free. Since I don't have it, I can't use it. Now, this is a difficulty 3 pick lock, but I have subterfuge level 2, so the cost is reduced by 3, which means it's essentially free. So I'm good. Force open the lock, I don't have enough agility. So it's going to cost me 2 effort points if I try to do it that way. I'm not going to do it. It would be stupid. I could use the disc to try to recuperate the key that way, or I could just pick the lock. I'm pretty sure the disc is the correct way to open this, but like, I mean, opening the lock is free for me anyway, so I might as well do it.
Sesame.
Why not? Oh, I got quick. See? Yeah, that was a good choice, because this gives me 1 skill point in subterfuge, because it's my 10 times I've used the subterfuge skill. So probably the disc I could have put on the ground probably would have attracted the key. So, for example, if you were going into this and you didn't have any other skills, but you had found the disc, then you would be able to open the door. If you don't have the disc and you have one of these skills, you can use one of these skills to open the door. Like, there's multiple ways to complete every puzzle, but having certain eye-level skills always help.
A chest with the occult symbol representing air.
Okay, this is a pick lock level 7, which means that even with my subterfuge level 2, it's still gonna cost me 4 points to open this. And keep in mind, guys, the points, they are really hard to get back. Like, sometimes, like, what you see is what you have for the entire chapter until the next chapter. And they count for every interaction you make, including dialogue and everything else. Like, unless you find a lot of consumables that fills those back, kind of screwed. So you have to use them, but sparingly. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to do a lot. I could use all of them right now, but then for the remaining of the chapter, I'll just be walking around and just not be able to use anything, except if it's free. So for now, we're just gonna move away. We have to find keys, essentially.
The New Testament.
Oh. Analyze the book. Erudition level 1.
This volume dates from the first edition by Gutenberg. It's the first book that was ever printed. The pages are covered in annotations in Latin, French, and Hebrew. Someone spent years studying this Bible.
Let's go for that one. Gospels and Acts of the Apostle.
I guess I'll just come back later.
Okay, we're gonna need this, but I want to go back and explore and examine that painting again. Because he mentioned something about one of the apostles, and I just want to make sure.
St. Paul on the Road to Damascus by Caravaggio. Caravaggio attained a magnificent command of black and the play of colors too. Paul facing an ordeal, the curtains of his illusions being raised, and receives the light from his Savior.
Okay, no, that's not helping. It's not helping at all. Nope. Sweet.
St. Paul painted by Guido Reni.
He's got a sword!
St. Paul is shown holding a sword. Strange. There's hardly any dust, as if the painting's been cleaned recently. There's a small inscription engraved on the frame. Let's take a closer look. This is how Paul spoke to his pilgrims from Rome. Just above that, someone's written down the figure 11 on the painting and underlined it twice. No, what does that mean?
Think about the secret code.
So we have the figure 11 twice underlined, and a story of a group of pilgrims who it looks like Paul is speaking to. Maybe it's a code. There must be a connection. A text on Paul must be somewhere, and it must be associated with the figure 11. But what's the story with these pilgrims? I mean, a connection with the figure, maybe?
Okay. See, I don't have logic, so I can't use that skill. Interesting, though. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Slowly but surely. What else can we find here?
Devil's Thorn. Painting of St. Mark from the collection of the Apostles by Guido Reni.
The Bible from the Apostle Saint Mark talking about Saint Paul, and probably going to be like verse 11 or something.
Several portraits of apostles, all signed by Guido Reni. It looks like someone touched this commode recently. There are fingerprints on the sheets and in the dust.
Sophistria. So we got Bookworm. Gives us an extra... I can equip an extra manuscript. Great. So I'm going to be able to equip one extra book. Not now, but next time we can equip books. There's going to be one more that I can equip. Now, we just got a new book. I think. Sophistria. Yeah, that one. It gives us one skill point in diversion. Interesting. Okay. There's still quite a few of them to collect.
It's St. John, painted by Guido Reni.
I'm going to spend a point on this.
St. John is known as the youngest of Christ's apostles. Well, we often give credit to St. John for having written about the apocalypse in the last book of the Bible.
This is St. John. This is St. Mark, right?
Painting of St. Mark
Yeah.
from the collection of the Apostles by Guido Reni.
St. Mark. What about this?
A drawing of the Apostle Matthew, painted by